Everybody got one of these?
Yes, I have. Like I want to call them.
I heard that you general.
That's all right, we got it. That's it. Everybody, all those.
I have a little call.
You just need a little card?
Yes. Thank
There you go.
Selfies.
No, I'm trying to figure out who come through something, read this. See, Miss Edwards?
No, I'm Mr. Rodriguez.
All right, okay.
The Carmen.
Oh,
Oh, okay, cool. All right, thank you.
she from the hill?
Notable.
Am I from?
She from the hill?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know it. I know your family.
No,
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
other Rodriguez.
Is it?
Mhm.
All right.
Where's mine from? Rhode Island. Thank you, Alderman Morrison.
That's what I meant. I'm from Rhode Island. That's what I meant.
Close to yours.
Really?
Close to your
Are
connection.
you really from Rhode Island? No,
Yes.
you ain't. Where about?
Yeah.
You are?
Original Rhode Island. Before it was
Where
Rhode Island. Before it
about?
was Rhode Island.
When it was called, what, Providenceville or something?
Plantation.
Providence Plantation.
Wow.
It still has that name.
Really?
Listen.
As Madam President Pro Tem says, I read everything. Now I got a reputation, I read everything. All right, well, as Judge Judy does, I don't like to bang my pen. You don't make them that good.
Well, you
We'll
just.
call the meeting to order. Call our meeting to order at 6:10. Currently, moving over at 18:10. Attendance, everyone, all our members signed the attendance sheet, and we asked our guests to sign at the bottom. So
Is that a check?
yeah, you can check it before you sign. Okay, we decided we really don't have to go over our ground rules because we're all adults, but all we do ask you is to put your cell phones on silent. Or you can turn it off if you so desire. And we would, if, with the approval of the body, we'll adjust skip the treasurer's report for now and do it after. And skip right on to new business. Our donation requests. Donation requests. Where's that here? Where are donation requests? Sure.
Oh, no, no, you have them up there by your thing.
Yeah.
You would have.
Well, let's. Thank you. That's old business. Sir Al, we have other
No, this is it.
This is it. This is our donation request.
Mhm.
Therefore, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Please give us your name and where you're from and present.
Okay. James Rawlings. I am from, not from Providence tonight, I'm from New Haven. And I am the president and CEO of the Sickle Cell Association of Connecticut. We're really focused on New Haven County. And then we've given the authorization to be statewide without the funding. So we're here to present.
Okay, talk to us. I believe we have some information that you provided. We're all ears.
Okay. I was asked my my manager to give me a count of the number of individuals that will be here, and so I think she said 6. So I don't know what the count is.
Today would be a difficult day with the weather where it was. my neighborhood was even a little tough to get out of.
Thank you, sir.
So, I'm going to walk through this presentation and kind of ask people to ask questions and challenge. I did an overall presentation of Sickle Cell Disease Association in Connecticut, but really focusing on New Haven County. And that would be roughly Hamden, West Haven, and of course, New Haven. And what I'm doing here is, first of all, I'm going to be presenting the board and our leadership. And on the first or second page, there's our chair is Sharon Jones. Most of us know her as a clinical licensed social worker with a doctorate. Mike Fletcher, Bishop Brooks, Jim Barber, Rosa Brown, Frank Tavares, and he's in medical school. We should know that. We'll talk about that one. Dory Dubas. There are some individuals here from across the state, Dr. Gary Rule, Malcolm Welfare, Everall Ennis, and the infamous Judge Keys. Okay? And what I'm doing here is going to walk through some of the issues that we have. And the first thing that in your packet, did you give yours away?
Yeah, good.
Is there's a poster here. This is a small poster that it's the first poster that was done relative to sickle cell disease, probably in New England or the Northeast. And what it really reflects are the national numbers for sickle cell disease. Basically, it's 1 in 10 with the sickle cell trait. There are 2.5 million individuals with sickle cell trait, many of them unaware of the trait status, and that's very dangerous. And 1 in 25 Hispanics with the sickle cell trait. The utilization in hospitals is on average 5.6 times per year. And at least 20% of those individuals are admitted 11 or 12 times per year. I was talking to Frank, and one thing that we have noticed is that the survival rate used to be 35. 1970 it was 21 was the average age of departure. We've increased now to 39 as the average age of departure. And I'm looking at the data now, and we have lots of data, and we getting to the point where we get to be 60 and get to be 70. And that's probably the fastest growing population, because that's kind of like a snake coming up, and, you know. So that's the reality of it. So we're going to be forced with the comorbidities of life, because, you know, when you're 21, it's really the sickle cell disease crisis that you're in, and you know that particular disease. But when you're at get to be 39 and 40 and 41, that's when you have comorbidities. And so there aren't any physicians, I don't think, who really specialize and grow their practice to be medical providers. They're internists and hematologists, but they're not those involved with chronic diseases that hypertension and diabetes. So that's something that we really will share with you with the data, but that is really a coming storm. And the other thing that, you know, we can look at with the data from a global perspective is that India is the fastest growing population in the world is in India. And that's the most populous country in the world. Can you imagine when that one hits? Because there's no cure. There's no cure. Yeah. So that's a way of background. There was roughly, I think, 60,000 individuals in Connecticut with sickle cell trait. 60,000, black and brown. There were roughly 1,200 with sickle cell disease. And this map doesn't do it any justice, but the map to the left is the one with sickle cell disease, and the map to the right is that with sickle cell trait. Now, the social justice issues at the bottom is that the my most recent data has it at 68 or 70% of individuals are insured with Medicaid. And that's not a insurer that you want if you need a specialist, because they give you a dime on every dollar. So you can't slight the providers. They're not incentivized to take care of Medicaid patients. It's the safety rail. So if you're with sickle cell disease and you need someone who is in private practice, you know, that's not a road for you, because they can't afford to take care of you. As a black and brown disease, and we can name some diseases that are genetic in nature, but most of them get 12 times the funding that we get because of the color of the population. And it's on Medicaid. And it's a small number. It's 100,000 individuals in the United States. It's not something that big pharma, Pfizer, et cetera, wants to invest in. I learned something during the COVID, which really put it back in our hands, because we've been waiting for a magic bullet for 125 years. 125 years. It was first discovered. COVID hit. Took them 12 or 15 months to raise $1 trillion. It took care of everything. That told me something, and should tell us, all of us, something. We can't depend upon pharma or a research in terms of research return on investment. We have to take this disease in our own hands. We have to drive awareness. And there aren't many males who are within our system, because we have virtual meetings statewide. We have virtual meetings statewide, and the meetings will be 20 and 25 individuals in both of the Hartford and New Haven. So if there's 25, there's 2 people in the room who are males. And males, it's a genetic disease. It takes 2. They're in denial. They're in denial, which puts us and future generations at risk. Remember, we can't depend and wait for pharma. The Pfizers of the world, and AstraZenecas of the world, and et cetera, et cetera. We cannot wait. Does everyone know, remember the senator from New York in the 50s and 60s? He was the hellstorm guy all the time.
What?
No, he was a black guy.
I was born in '68.
Black senator from Massachusetts?
No. Oh, no, he was in the House. I'm sorry. He's in the House. Anyways, he's the one that taught me what's in your hand. And this is something that has to be in our hands. We can't wait for someone outside of our control to help us with our problems. We have the ability to take control of the sickle cell disease and at least minimize it.
Begins with an R. What's his name? Rankin?
No. He was a light-skinned brother. But it's awareness. We have a sickle cell traits testing program at Michelle's house over here on Orchard Street. We don't get African-American males in there. And we do big programs Basically it's 85% females. Does anyone know, besides you, that Miles Davis has sickle cell disease?
I knew that.
His silence brought death to our community because he was silent. He had a podium. He had a following. I have brothers-in-laws who follow him all the time. They followed him then. They didn't even know it. Most people didn't even know it. But when I saw his obituary, it was typical for the sickle cell, someone with sickle cell disease. Most people thought he was an addict. He wasn't an addict. He was on opioids. His painkillers, hip replacements. You read it in his obituary. And he canceled too many of his shows spontaneously because of crisis. But you think that, this is typical of African American males who are dangerous to us, to themselves. I want to see, through awareness, the reciprocal bending the curve for newborn screening. So if we have 100 babies born every year with sickle cell disease, I want to see that curve. I want to see it reduced by at least 50%. We cannot wait for big pharma. This is all our responsibilities. This is what's in our hand. Awareness is in our hands.
And when we learn those tricks, what kind of things can be done?
Well,
Awareness is the main, like Mr. Rollins mentioned, the men are coming, so they're not going to tell or ask the question if they, with a child, relationship with anybody, they're not going to say, well, do you have sickle cell?
but most things are palliative care. And you can, the reason that it moved from 21 to what it is now is antibiotics. So, in the early years, between 1 and 2 years of age, that's when they're given antibiotics. It's like the old penicillin. Now they have medications that, and hematologists who are oncologists, that's the backslash, who know how to treat the crisis, but they don't know how to cure the disease. So they can maintain someone until they're 39. But remember, sickle cell disease is binary. For every one child, there's a male and there's a female. The average age of a male is 7 years less than that 39, because that's the average number. They don't get care. They don't access the system. They're like all these brothers here. They don't take care of themselves. And particularly in our community, if you're sick, it's a sign of weakness. We know all that. Okay. I'm going to hand out something here to everyone who can have one. Okay. This is state data here that the 3 big cities control 90% of the sickle cell disease in the urban area, and that's because of the major teaching hospitals that are sitting there. Because if you're in a place that's desolate or a rural area, you can't get there. So when we look at Hartford and New Haven and maybe even Bridgeport, they have to migrate to the urban areas. Okay? So 90% of what we're seeing in Connecticut is really in urban areas. We're looking at the next slide. we can see that the slide with New Haven is probably the largest slide here. No, it's Hartford is number one, New Haven is number two, and Fairfield County is number three. Okay, everything else is 1%, all that stuff. Okay. What's interesting on the next slide is those who can survive. And we talked about survival getting to the point to where it's 50 and 60, et cetera, et cetera. Those who survive in Bridgeport, getting over the age of 80, is 13%. Contrast that with New Haven, where it's 34%. Now, I haven't shared this data with anyone outside of the HIPAA province. But I thought I would share it with this group here because of the fact that they will keep it to themselves. Because if this data gets out, you know, Bridgeport, would, you know, the residents down there will say, why am I'm at risk? If my survival rate is going to be 3 times that of New Haven because of the L system. But this is the data that I have that I'm working with. I'm a data person. I'm a researcher. Data talks. And that's why the award was given to us, because we do such a positive job of putting in place programs. We have CVS as our national partner. When CVS last year put out, I think it was $700 million, they decided to work on 4 diseases: cardiovascular, maternal child health, I forget the third one, and with sickle cell disease. They're working with all other 50 states, but they're only working with us, Connecticut, our organization, for sickle cell disease. Okay, so when you go into the CVS stores nowadays, even though they're closing because of a different business model, you see awareness information. Okay, we've done that as part of a contract. Okay, this is interesting graph over here, and this is where I took the data from from the previous information. It shows you at 34% at the bottom there and 21%, etc. That's the data. Okay. One of the other interesting things that we have come across is that at the top of this chart is sickle cell trait, which is not what we're dealing with, you know, but we are dealing with it because those are the vectors with sickle cell disease at the bottom. And we can see that Fairfield County, the number of admissions is 37. In New Haven, it's 54. And in Hartford, 1, 2, 3, it's 37, 45, and 75. What we're trying to do right now is trying to put in place a home infusion program. If you're suffering from cancer, the systems will allow you to have home infusions, bring it to you. Medicaid won't do that. And I'm fighting with them. Because I got nothing to lose. I'm an old man. You know, it wasn't like I'm at a, you know, even hospital and, you know, look over my back. But it's crazy. So that's one of the things that we want to be able to deal with and deliver. Because from the perspective of our clients, that's what they want. They want to be able to have quality of life. So if they're in a hospital most of the time, average child's in the hospital 25 days per year. And then those over 40, are in the hospital more than 12 times per year. And I told you before, that's going to increase. Okay?
And that speaks to also you know, when you're in school, you have teachers, and especially with this pandemic hit, folks just aren't aware of why, you know, you look at a student with sickle cell, all these abscesses, there's a reason why. And then they go into crisis and they have to go in the hospital. You know, that's not mentioned, not that you can mention it, but the administrators need to know. You know, they're not coming because they're missing school because of this. And, but again, awareness is playing a major part. And then you talk about the parents. Now, the parents are missing work, they end up losing their job. So it just keeps. Yeah.
Let me tell you about the school systems in Connecticut. And I dealt with the superintendent of schools previously. And I've met with the statewide superintendent of schools. What Gary's referring to and what I'm referring to is that we don't know the failure rate in our schools of our children. We have the data nationally. There's no reason why that data is not reflective of New Haven. The mastery exams in Connecticut were 57%, right? The urban schools were all 10 or 12. What's the failure rate if you're in a hospital 25 times a year? I mean, 25 days a year. They have, I'm not going to mention any names, but they circle to wagons because they're embarrassed. I can't get the data.
Jim, just on that point, are you saying that the school system does, that they, it's here in New Haven, that we do know the number of students in the school system, that, or is that a HIPAA kind of privacy issue?
Yes.
It's a mixture of both. They have the data.
They know the percentage of students or the specific students?
They know the specific students and they have the data. But they have to put it all together and say, this is the cohort compared to the sickle cell patients with the disease and with all others. That's how they've done the national studies. I can't understand why we would put black and brown kids and throw them into the trash. Do the parents know these things? Do the parents know? Does anyone here know this? I fought almost for 12 months trying to get meetings with these superintendents. And then they sent the designee and never heard back.
So, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, a lot of times, and when women are pregnant, and obviously you know that as well as I do, when we're pregnant, and they know that they have someone who's a partner who's a sickle cell trait, they do test for the trait. If the pregnant woman says, you know, this is my partner has sickle cell trait or my family has sickle cell trait. When it comes also to the children and I'm going to say my children, when they have their physicals, we all know the blue school physical forms. The family member has to be answer those medical questions. But what I'm hearing is sometimes folks don't want to put it down or don't want to discuss that they have sickle trait. That's what I'm hearing, because I don't know what they're doing themselves a disservice, because I hear you saying the male population doesn't come out and say what they need to say, and it's a disservice medically for them, and it's also a disservice for future children that they have because they can carry the trait. I know that when there's a blue school physical form that needs to be filled out and sent over to a school nurse, that nurse holds that obviously in the file and things like that. If the child is coming in and getting sick and has to be sent home, you know, they'll have to figure out a multitude of it, if it's a viral, if it's this. My suggestion, I think that the superintendent is important, but perhaps reaching out to the nursing director of the Board of Education, so that way that information is better available. The superintendent will handle one thing, but I think with our nursing supervisors in the SUS system, it's important, yes, sir, that it would be important, go ahead, it would be important that they get involved as well with you. Go ahead.
So, to piggyback on that, what communication have you done, or is there being done with the health department?
The health department does not have these records.
Mm-mm.
So what is their part, what is their function in this school?
There's two different, school nurses and there's a school nurses.
Mhm.
There, when I was engaged professionally, I ran most of the school programs that were funded by the state. And what do you call those special kind of clinics within schools nowadays?
Those are school-based clinics
School-based clinics.
Okay.
Okay, so I ran 7 or 8 of them
in New Haven.
in New Haven. And I ran the one in Brantford, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
But
okay.
there is there's information that if you're in a school-based clinic and you have a provider,
Mhm.
you more than likely won't go into a school-based clinic because the provider will be losing his patient. But let me go to this other point that you're making.
Mhm.
The superintendent is the person who controls the data,
So,
okay?
okay. Mr. Chair. I think now, because you're bringing up valid points, I work in a clinic,
Mm-hmm,
so we've seen a lot of kids from the New Haven school system.
mm-hmm,
And I'm very, very, very well versed with what the Blue School physical form looks like.
mm-hmm.
And I hear what you're saying, because sometimes when these children come in, they have school base. Now, if they can't get into the school base, they're gonna go out to now all these local surrounding clinics that have popped up. These minute clinics are now getting physicals.
Oh, yeah.
If they're not giving a full description of the medical history, that's a hinder. Parents are rushed. You got to get them to school. Now it's 3 days and you ain't in class. Let's get you moving. So I understand the concern. I think that seeing what we saw, again, we were no one's primary, but because parents needed to be seen, they saw our medical provider. We got them into school. But that young lady, I have to say, and you know, I've been working with her since 1990, does a full medical history. And oftentimes, absolutely asking about, you know, medical history, the sickle trait comes out and the parent will say that. I think because we have we should embark on a new journey, because now that we have a new superintendent of schools, you grab her early and get her ear.
I met with her.
Did you?
I met with her.
Okay, so we opened the door. How did, I'm afraid to ask, but you're smiling. So what I'm saying, because now you have, you know, we're thinking, and then we have biracial marriages. So now we have to not only do.
Do you know that 67% of New Haven are single-headed households?
Yes.
67%. There's no male in that household. There is no male in that household. That compounds the issue. That compounds the issue.
Jim, we didn't want to cut you off. You referenced, and we're glad that you met with Superintendent Grown.
Yes.
Would you care to share your assessment or recollection of the results of that meeting?
That's right.
I am waiting for the second visit.
Okay.
Do you have to request a second, if I might, Mr. Chair, do you have to request a second visit, or is that to be scheduled, or can we help facilitate that?
Well, the latter would be very important because we're discussing sickle cell disease, right? And this is both of ours, right?
So the latter, you're referencing the latter suggestion that I made 10 seconds ago.
Yes.
Okay. So you're requesting that we pursue?
No, I'm not requesting, it's a passive, you're informed.
Okay, good, all right. You've given us that opportunity.
Call dropping the ball in your court.
No, it's not dropping the ball in the court.
It's
I'm
teamwork.
gonna,
It's teamwork.
we're gonna track this down because there's lives at stake. And I'm not delegating anything. You know, I am not. Gary brought me into this mess.
Gary's fault. Are you through? Yes, thank you.
So, Mr. Jim, what is the ask of the Board of Alders? Because a lot of people come to our table, they talk about the different, because this is a very important topic. This is a topic we all see in the Black and brown community every single day. A lot of people don't share that they have sickle cell until they have an episode and they end up in the hospital. You ask them 1,000 times why they're there, then they finally tell you. But none of us, I don't know how, not fix it, but what to do. So what is your particular ask of us? We are the Board of Alders. Do you need the superintendent to come to the table? Because we can get her at the table. Do you need the nursing supervisor, which is not under the Board of Ed, is under the Department of Public Health?
Right.
Do you need her to come to the table? What do you need from us
I need
to
a-
be able to push this along?
We need to come together and hold and tell the community via the Board of Aldermen, have a hearing. And invite everyone that touches a student, particularly around the health issues.
So you want a workshop. You want the Board of Alders to sponsor, in the Black and Hispanic Caucus, to sponsor a workshop to talk about the topic of sickle cell and what we as a community can do.
No, I want a hearing.
So there's a difference between a hearing and a workshop.
Go ahead.
A workshop is to provide the information. A hearing is to make an actual action happen. So that's why I go back to what is your ask?
Okay.
Because
Tell me what you think would be efficient and effective for getting the word out and holding people accountable and letting the community know.
so to me, if we have a workshop, right? Because one thing I've learned in being in this world for the last 12 years, you got to be very specific with people. I need Gary to pick up that black book. Ain't no other, I need you to do that. Because if you say, well, Gary, can you pick up the book and this, and then he picks up the folder, I can't be mad. So for me, I need to know specifically when we hold a workshop, because it's one thing to give information, but then you got to get what's next. What are the next steps? What do you need the superintendent to do? What do you need the nursing supervisor to do? What do you need the nurses in the schools to do? Because when we come up with those lists, then as a board, we can help with that. Because we are the authority over the city. We can call this, we can ask all these people, we'll get the mayor's office involved, ask all these people to come to the table, but we need actual things that we can touch to say, I need to do X. Because just having the information, because we've been talking about sickle cell. I had a friend, he didn't die of sickle cell, he died of other stuff, but okay, sickle cell, they've been talking about it, but I know that it's the slew, the blood cells, how they go, but again, what do you do? What as the layman person can I do to help that? Other than just talk about it.
We want, I'm not familiar with the mechanics of how this entity operates, but the one thing I do know is that we have to come together and drive awareness. And with awareness, we can hopefully get to, one venue should be males. They're not aware of the fact, they're in denial. But this is a complex issue. Many of you know that I drove the aged care program at Yellow Haven Hospital. Drove it because the doctors and nurses didn't want HIV in the hospital because the stigma would turn away patients. I was effective doing that. So I'm thinking about this from your perspective. And so you have to inform me what would be the best thing that the Board of Aldermen can do relative to driving awareness and making a measurable difference and impact that we can say there's a metric for this.
So, and again, if I may, Mr. Chair, again, you're the expert, so we can fill this room up with 500 people, right? But we can fill it up with 500 people, but if we don't give them a directive to say, okay, now that you understand this, this disease, this is what I need you to do. I need every person to find a black or brown male and bring them to the hospital and get tested. Or I need you to, every person in here to take 5 copies of these statistics and pass this out to 5 people that you know so they can be aware. So for us, and that's the good thing about all of us being on the board, because we understand and we have the ability to make certain requests, but we got to be very specific with our requests, because as all of us, everybody is so busy, and people want to know when they come to something, their time, nothing's wasted, but you know how people are. They need to know, okay, tomorrow I have a responsibility to call 5 people to talk about sickle cell and then get them to a meeting on X, or bring these people to the hospital, and then we'll have a check-in on whatever day. So that's why I'm asking these kind of questions, because I don't know.
I have the information, I have the experience, but I don't have the experience relative to the experience that this board has. So I'm asking you a rhetorical question relative to the board. What would be the appropriate tool and series of whatever they happen to be? So that, because you've heard this pronoun and noun for many issues. But what would be the most effective thing that I could ask you to do? So, but I'm getting that from the professionals.
Right.
Can I just say this one last thing to just kind of put this out? So when we had when Obamacare came out, right? When Obamacare came out, people heard of it, but they didn't know. As a Black and Hispanic Caucus, we took that on as an issue. And we did a door knocking campaign about Obamacare and provided folks with not just about Obamacare, but enrolling into the, how you have to do the enrollment. We took that as our responsibility. We went door to door to educate and got people to enroll into the portal that they had to enroll in, because we were able to say, this is the new law. By such and such a date, everyone has to be enrolled. So when we did that, we made a big impact in people in their knowledge about Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act, and the fact that you have a right to have health care. And so that's what we did. So just giving you a visual of some of the things that this group has done, or one of the things that this group has done. So just looking at that example, and then looking at all this information that you have, again, and Gary, I think he has the answer, because I see his knee moving. To tell us what it is that we could do. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to put that out because I want to help. I just don't know how to help. And if you guys tell me what I need to do, I can put that in my calendar so I can make sure I do that and then move on. So.
Yep. Well, I think, again, I hear what you're saying. I know exactly what you're asking for. But what you just mentioned too about how you dealt with the Obamacare, that's a start. We could utilize probably some of that with this type of outreach. Where we're lacking is not only awareness, we're lacking resources. And today, I think that us, again, thank you. Because this is important. I've known people, I've lost people that have been very close to this disease. I grew up with folks, and then being in the fire department, I've had my worst experience with young folks with sickle cell. And I'll just bring up one story. I had this one little girl, we get her 3 and 4 times a week. And come in, doors open, we walk in, she's in the corner crying, probably about 9 years old. And she would look up at me and apologize. Sorry, she was in so much pain. And I haven't, over the years, I hadn't seen any changes. So that being said, it means there's not much being done about it. And it's horrific. It's tearing up families. I know families of all different nationalities that are just tore up, the whole family. So that being said, one, we wanted to come tonight to bring awareness, because we assume people know about sickle cell. And you'll be surprised, a lot of people don't. We assume that our family members aren't being affected by it, but a lot of our families are. You just mentioned what the family, they just lost two in 2 weeks, 2 sickle cell. So we need awareness. We need help, because the Michelle's house, it's there, like you said, there's no men in there. So we need to get this out there. We need to get it in the schools. We need funding. So, we have some examples right here of what we're doing to raise awareness. We have the walk every year. We do ring the bell for sickle cell. We used to do it here in New Haven, the fire department, but Bridgeport's still doing it. And I think they just finished up. They might have a couple more days. So now we're doing a concert. What better way to get to our community at Woolsey Hall to highlight sickle cell? So we're doing everything we can, but we need the tentacles of the communities to put this together and brainstorm and come up with some things that's going to make a difference. And, this is one thing, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to, you're going to help you. So we know, we have the connections. So I think the ask is, support. We need some outreach, we need support in all kinds of ways. Mr. Rawlings he's getting up there.
But it's
not
a
in the
good start.
horse.
Where you're going now is a good start, because the most important thing was awareness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, when you don't hear about it,
Yeah.
they think it went away.
Yeah. And I heard that the other day.
And it's just that bringing that awareness back out,
Mm-hmm.
that this is still here and it's still affecting a lot of people. So yes, I agree, you came to the right place. And we have a Health and Human Services Committee, we have Education Committee, and as Alderman Morrison was saying, it's part of it is getting it into a workshop. I suppose you wanted a public hearing, and I know it's a little confusing the way we structure that, but the workshop would be in a more effective way. It allows us to invite specific people in to discuss the problem and put those things on the table, what we can do, what directions we can go, what the problem is, goals and objectives. That's the 3 big things I hear in this room today is awareness, and what is the goal, what is the objective. And I think those are important things that we have to address.
On my card here are the objectives from the perspective of our clients. Okay? And I carry this around with me in the clients because what I'm focused on is having them, they have been in petri dishes for too long. And what we're trying to do is make sure that there is measurable things that we can have an impact on. So what I'm doing here and what we're doing is that we're trying to have these things. I'm a data person. And so what we're trying to do here is move all of these things forward. And I'm excited about the fact that Gary has led a tremendous awareness program. Most of the times when I'm at the end of the day, I can't check off anything here. I'm dealing with Medicaid. I'm dealing with DPH. I'm dealing with CMS, and I'm dealing with CVS. I'm dealing with the school system, and I'm dealing with the academic medical centers who don't want us to come to take away babies because they run clinical trials. Because if you don't understand clinical trials, Connecticut is a small state. The cost of enrolling someone is very expensive because there's only 1.3 million people here. So the researchers have to make sure that they don't have any breakage in the clinical trials. There can't be any breakage. So we don't have many friends because of if you follow the money, and we always have to follow the money. Okay, I know that Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and Johns Hopkins get most research money disproportionately in the entire country. They're academic medical centers, and they're in Black communities, and they're in clinical trials. So I know that piece of it. But the AMCs, the school systems, the foundations, I'm trying to get a meeting with all the foundations in Connecticut, because it's a Connecticut problem. It's not just a community foundation problem. So, and the Hartford Foundation is the biggest foundation in Connecticut.
And one thing I wanted to mention too, before I forget, and what they're doing also in some of the fire departments across the country, they're trying to bring in, if they identify you with sickle cell trait, they're trying to eliminate you from the process. The trait.
It's not like it's contagious.
They're going back and forth with New York right now, fighting it.
You know something about awareness? I was putting forward a grant proposal to the state of Connecticut. So I had the New Haven delegation, which is the most powerful delegation in the city. So, and we know the players. So I was meeting with the number 3 person in the LOB. And I developed a packet like this with data and et cetera, et cetera. What, you know the first question he asked? And I could see it rippling through the LOB. Well, you know the first question he asked? Not what was in the packet. That's when I knew I had to do something else strategically. He asked the question that you asked. Is it contagious? This is a JD, number 3 in the goddamn LOB. If I had done the grant proposal, there's 169 towns. There's only 3 urban towns. They're sank. I know that we have to be about awareness. We have to be about and drive awareness. Those are our kids and our families. And we know that the stigma, and there was a certain paper in here that, where's that paper at? There it is. See this paper in here? This is JAMA from 2022, 2020. See what it says? Look in your packet. It's behind the academic sides. It says in it, when actions speak louder than words. Racism and sickle cell disease in 2020. And this is the leading best read journal in the goddamn in America.
So
We got another question, Alderman Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I've grown up hearing about sickle cell. I don't have it. Nobody in my family has it. But I've grown up with a large, a large number of people in my church alone, in the school that I went to, St. Martin Forest, people that have grown up with the trait, and some that have died from it. And when you say awareness, I'm still confused, because what are the symptoms? How does one know that they have? How can you? What symptoms are there in the household that people they find out that they have sickle cell in their family? And that's the part of the awareness that I'm not sure about. How does that just get
There's mandatory,
not seen.
there's mandatory testing
Mhm.
for the last 45 years that everyone born in Connecticut and across the country
Mhm.
is identified, and a note is sent to the parent or parents
Mhm.
and to the pediatrician.
Mhm.
But in our community, it's a vulnerable population. If you have the disease, you're symptomatic. If you have the trait, you're not symptomatic. We do nothing on the trait. And the priority, when you're economically challenged, is not something about, well, do I have the trait? It's putting food on the plate. And the stigma is so damn pervasive. I'm going back to Ms. Morrison's piece. People will hide and won't even tell us that they have sickle cell disease and or trait. And they get them confused.
That's my point. You know, I've grown up, like I said, in that community where there were a lot of people, families that had sickle cell. And it's like they were hiding it. They were actually hiding it because I hear the next day, oh, she had a
Crisis.
crisis. What happened? So here I am, very close to this person, but I still don't even know what it is.
Mhm.
So there's a lack of.
Gary gave you a perfect example. A guy wants to apply to be a firefighter. He doesn't want to tell because if they're gonna say, well, no, you don't qualify now, he's out of the job.
Wow, that's a prime example.
Wow.
And if you don't disclose on an employee's employment application, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Most of those with sickle cell disease are not employed because of the employment barrier. So, we had something going on where CVS, and I'm, dropping names, that we put them through a particular job application process where CVS was going to, in fact, if they had sickle cell disease, they were going to make accommodations for the clients. That'd have been a national model. Because the discussions had been, what are the barriers, generically. But I heard something also that poses a challenge to us, a new challenge. It's mini clinics. They're for the healthy, they're not for the unhealthy. Can you imagine what happens when someone goes to a mini clinic and they simply deal with the symptoms? They don't draw blood or something else. This is a side to it, but it's the who's the guy who was going to develop all of the pharmacies? He's an MBA owner. No basketball players there. Okay, all right.
Texas.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I mean that's a whole new frontier. But I couldn't believe that. This is I was shocked. I was shocked when the number 3 person in the New Haven delegation or within in the Senate, the number 2 or 3 person in the Senate just didn't read the data or did read the data, but he asked a question. And I knew that then that I had not done our job. We had not done our job. It was too basic. That's what I'm hearing from this group.
Another question from Alder Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I know a lot about sickle cell, and I've known about it all my life because I'm a person that has a sickle cell trait. My nephew has full-blown sickle cell. Like, it runs rampant through my family. I have like 6 or 7 people with the full-blown disease. My nephew goes through his crisis like every other week or every other month. He's now 25, but when he was much younger, he stayed in the hospital all the time. So I just like, it's been around me all my life, and my family always told us. So we knew who had the trait, because when we got that test, and the doctor told them, they told us for whatever reason. Right. So I guess when we talk about awareness, right, we all know awareness starts at the lower level, younger level, because some people might not understand they're even experiencing a crisis. Like my nephew don't have a choice with his work on his like bones and his organs and stuff like that, but everybody's crisis is not the same and it's not as severe. So I guess we, as a caucus, we can do things like try to talk with the schools about sending the information home, maybe in the kids' book bag, right? Like they did with the when we changed the system if someone came to school and it's an active shooter or something. So we could do things like that. We can send it out to our networks, like in our wards. We all have email lists and stuff like that. So we can do those things, but I'm just trying to figure out a little bit like how do we get, because I heard you say that it's Yale, Harvard, all these places get the most money in clinical trials and all of that stuff. But since I've been at Yale for the last 25 years, they don't really focus on sickle cell. They do more of the cancers and the things like that. And I haven't really, like, I don't know, they don't focus like on sickle cell. And I guess my question is, how do we get them, if this is affecting our communities in a major way, in the way you're explaining, how do we get them, or what we could do to get them to kind of focus on it a little bit more? Because we know something about it and we know more about it than we knew back 40 years ago, but do we actually know everything we need to know about the disease? Because every week, something new is coming up with my nephew. Like every week, something they did last time no longer works. So now they're moving on to chemo and different things. So I just feel like it's evolving so much, but if they're not studying it enough, like they're doing it on the fly instead of the way they study certain cancers and certain things like that, they kind of have a blueprint for it to know like kind of what to do.
Well, you saw that, I don't know if they're still doing this, wrong, my favorite, but St. Jude's, and that they were doing something for a little while pertaining to sickle cell. I've seen the commercials, I haven't seen the since. But, you know, again, when we speak to not only awareness, but you, like you said, your family's dealt with it. I know several people that work with you guys, families.
Yeah.
You know, one of the, I know, the baby, she's not a baby anymore, but she won't come to the house.
I need,
28 years, because
I
she's
need,
afraid.
I'm sorry, I need, I'm going after, we have to understand that data is a tool. We have Medicaid data, we have hospital data, and we have DPH data. That's what I can talk to and deal with. It's a tool, it's a powerful tool. What we don't have is the school data. And that's the one thing that is part of this pie. I have data from the national and regional, but we cannot sacrifice our kids because there's 174 kids below the age of 10 in the state. And they're all in urban areas. So I have lots of data here from working with the NIH Minority Caucus on this issue. I have lots of data nationally. I have all the data from the hospitals. I have, and you know, and I was on HIC, so I understand what's going. You know HIC is right. So I was on that for quite a while. I was on Pfizer's national HIC, you know. But I do know that the one thing I don't have, and we do not have, is data on children and the academic side of their lives.
Are you all set, Madam President?
I'm kind of sort of not really though. Because I guess what I'm asking is, right, so you don't have access to the data in schools is what I heard you say. Some of them are struggling academically. I mean, I guess we know that, right? Because if you're in a hospital, 90% of the time, I don't know when you're doing work, right? I'm speaking from my own experience with my nephew. He spent a lot of time in the hospital. He struggled in school. We had to do extra support everywhere. And with my cousins too, all of their kids, they're little, they're babies. One of them is not even 2 years old yet. And she's been in the hospital like 15 times. So I guess as far as the school system, what we could do is just send it, because the information goes out to the parent, and the parent, I don't know, that HIPAA and all of that stuff always come into play, and the parent, it's their responsibility to share the information beyond where the information can go. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how do we figure out, or how do we develop some kind of campaign within the schools where the information that everybody needs lies, but it ultimately lies with the parent? How do we get them engaged enough, one, to understand what their kid is actually going through? Because as a parent, especially if you're a single parent, if you work in 2 and 3 jobs, you're not only dealing with that and it's high rent and everything else, and now your kid is constantly going in the hospital because they saying my legs hurt, but you don't understand that that pain is not just like a leg pain. It's through the bones. You can't get up, you can't walk, you can't, like, so how do we get them even aware enough to actually understand? Because I don't think a lot of parents actually understand what their kid is actually going through, because like, they just don't. So how do we do a campaign where, one, they're understanding, so they're willing to share that information that you're talking about with you?
Well, you know, I'm getting the sense that this has to be a shotgun as opposed to a rifle. Like, I meant multifocal approach to it. But the one thing about data is that you have to amass the data in order to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so I'm not averse to anything that's across the table, but I do know that absent having data, you can't get grants and you can't fix the problem. And we have to figure out how we excise the cancer and not deal with the symptoms.
And I think one thing you mentioned too was the workshop. I think by having some testimony from families coming in, like from what we just heard from you, and you know, I'm just reliving some of the things, like you said, people don't understand the pain. And the reason why we started the boot drive, because we would go on call and we firefighters and say, well, why do they keep calling us? We got an arm and a leg. And I would look at them and I would have to explain to them, this is what they're going through. This is like me grabbing your elbow or your wrist and squeezing it hard as I can. That's why. Some of them are allergic to pain medication. You know, so this is their only resource. So again, raising awareness, doing a workshop, you know, really starting to push, like the walk. We've been doing the walk for years. Start really, you know, advocating for folks to support the walk. Now we have a concert, same thing. We need support. I mean, I see all these different fundraisers for all of which they're well deserved, but this is one too. They deserve some support too. And these life stories, like you just said, it's horrific. Their quality of life is they can't, you know, the kid, they can't, you know, holidays, none of that really means because they can't enjoy it. They're in the hospital.
There was a company, there was a pharmaceutical company, Global Blood Therapeutics. I'm trying to think of the brand name of the product. And it was the only black big pharma company in the world, in the United States. Global Blood Therapeutics. That guy's name was Dr. Ted Love. He did grand rounds for us a couple of times. He was brought out more recently by Pfizer. You know what Pfizer does? Pfizer simply puts them on the shelf because they don't want any competition. This is big business stuff. You gotta follow the money. But what I do know is that I'm a researcher, I'm a community person, I have some of the experience, and what we're talking about here is having a metrics, whether it's with the home infusions, ED. Most of the ED visits are preventable, avoidable. I'm looking at social determinants. Because if someone doesn't have a car, or someone doesn't have to, you know, they're somewhat vulnerable, or they have problems in their family. I'm looking to see if, in fact, if the social determinants is what driving the ED visit and or the admission. Because once we determine that, then we can start to address the social determinants.
So what can the alders do to help with the, say, for instance, you're advocating for the home visits. What can be done to push that allow? What has to be done?
I am not talking about what we can do.
Mr. Rollins, I'm just asking you a question. Okay. I'm just asking you a question.
No, all this can't help me with that particular, I have the ability to be effective because I've asked the system the question. They're supportive of the home infusion program.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is there anything, any advocacy, what calls can they make? How can they, reach out to people? How can they help? That's what I think Alderman Morrison was asking. What can we need to identify the ask?
Let's get to Alderman Morrison, may have some input there.
So I have a question, but I'll ask that later. And I know, Mr. Rollins, this ain't your world. Your world is, like you said, research, getting information and understanding, and hope that other people can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say what it is that we can do
Mm-hmm.
under the auspice of the Board of Alders. We can ask you guys a couple of things. One, I'll say just the Black and Hispanic Caucus. We can look to host a workshop
Mm-hmm.
here to make folks aware and be very specific in individuals that we have come here. We can also, we have funding.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of funding. Get that right. We don't got a lot of funding. But you can look to ask us for some type of donation,
Mm-hmm.
and we could try to donate towards your cause.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can also, as President Walker Meyer said, if you write up some type of fact sheet that that is going to help people get more of an understanding. Because I'm going to be honest with you, your average person isn't going to read all that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to figure out like a fact sheet that really says 1, 2, 3, right? And this is why and the next step, go get tested or something like that. We could take that and send that out to all of our own personal electronic distributions. And then if that fact sheet had some type of link where you could do a quick questionnaire that helps you to see, I don't know, I'm making stuff up now, that helps you to see that you might have the trait. And because you had all these yeses, you have 3 yeses and 2 no's, you need to go get tested. We can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an effort of us pushing, because there's a million things that people can do, and you can talk until you're orange in the face,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll still be sitting there asking you, well, what you want us to do? But I know those 2 things I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact we can do those things. Mm-hmm. So if we do that, and that's just a little bit more awareness mm-hmm. to the community about this right. deadly disease, mm-hmm. then I think we've done our part. Try to, at least.
Can you, when this was mentioned before, that there'll be particular people who that come in and are invited.
Right.
And so
you can make up a wish list.
Right. And so the educational issue, the school nurse issue, and others who are stakeholders.
Right. Okay. So if you came up with a wish list mm-hmm. of all the people, put Obama up there because I would like to see him myself. Mm-hmm. But put everybody that you
Michelle's out Obama.
Exactly. We want Michelle. Put everybody on that list mm-hmm. who you specifically want to see, especially under city government. Mm-hmm. We got the board president that's a part of the Black and Hispanic Caucus, right? What? She makes phone calls. Things move.
Get done.
So if you come up with your list mm-hmm. and then we organize our people to come, we can fill up that. You've seen this room get filled up over yep. different topics.
And good press.
It good and very good press. When with the jobs campaign, you've seen 500, 600, 700 people in this room about that. We can do the same thing. So we can't solve all the problems mm-hmm. of this, but we at least can utilize our powers collectively to fill this room up. Our board president, I'm putting you up there, our president can make the calls to your wish list mm-hmm. to get those people here. And then we can, you know, you guys can make a request to us for a financial donation, and we can look at what kind of financial donation we can do.
Right.
That's kind of like where we are.
Okay.
And
I
then-
like that. I really like that because what's it called, what did you call that meeting thing that you want?
Workshop.
Workshop.
The workshop.
Okay. I mean, that gives us the ability to bring in a lot of different organizations, a lot of different venues and the media, because the media can be used effectively. It keeps doing something. If this one is doing something, if something is doing something. So, you know, there's podcast people around the table, but the message has to get out. But there also has to be something in place where the systems are held accountable.
Now, that piece, holding people accountable, that's very, very hard. However, we can set things up to be so simple to help folks and then encourage that. Like I said, if you could come up with a fact sheet that just got some baseline like that.
Did you see this thing?
Yeah, but that right there, I need something I can look real quick to say, oh, I'm gonna die. If I don't get,
It's almost like one.
it's like a one slide. It's like if I look at this and I read like, oh shoot, I'm gonna die if I don't go get tested, or yeah, I have those kind of symptoms. Maybe I need to go talk to somebody. Something that's quick for the eye.
Okay.
And then like I said, I'm making up stuff. Even if you could put a link in there, because if we send it electronically, people can click on that link and answer 5 questions. And those 5 basic questions tell you whether you should go get tested or you're good. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so those, we can constantly push that out to say, hey, take this, because once you then become aware, oh, I might have this trait, then you can start having those conversations with your doctor. But if you feel like you just riding high free and you're not sick or whatever, because no one's asked you those specific questions, then, you know, that becomes the problem. So that's my humble little suggestion to do that, to, you know, let us host, because as a Black Hispanic Caucus, that is our job, that's our role, right? To take topics that affect Black and brown people and highlight. That's why we're here. We're here to highlight and to make sure that certain people are in the room. But like I said, going even more, you have like one of those fact sheets and then that little test.
That's
I don't
EDS.
know.
That's
I don't know if
EDS.
there's a 5-question
Okay.
thing that you could come up with.
KISS, right? Keep it simple, whatever it is.
All right, I like that.
Right.
So
If I can get a couple
that's
more
me.
questions in so we can move on our agenda. Alder Rodriguez was next.
Thank you. So I'm going to piggyback off of Alderman Morrison because she had mentioned, we were mentioning similar things prior. You did, when you first came in, you said, I had one meeting with the superintendent of the schools and you'd like to have another one to open that door of the discussion on sickle cell. You also mentioned the nursing bureau, health department directors, so that those are the key players. You started your wish list when you sat down. So I'm just circling back because you already started that guest list for this workshop. And those folks are important because you want to help the children in our school system, in the New Haven school system. So those items were important. I totally agree, a fact sheet, even if it's laminated with a QR code, 5 basic questions, what to look for. Could you have the sickle cell trait? But additionally, please, on the bottom, because you have to put it, please contact your medical provider, get tested, because what happens is we want to be able to put it out there, but also guide them to where they have to go to figure it out. Because then you're gonna have people calling back and saying, well, where do I connect here and there? And with your ask, perhaps having the workshops and a huge campaign that the health department can help you with. So all those asks you started with, prior to everybody you know, arriving to the table.
Mhm.
It's, you know, you close the gap. I just want to close that circle.
Mhm.
Get the guest list, workshop is easy. You get them here, you fill the room. Just have everything so that
Yep.
the superintendent, everybody else you mentioned that you want them to be aware,
Mhm.
they have those little plastic bags and send it home. I know that parents are busy, absolutely. Have them have that
Mhm.
as a day that you can.
Right.
So,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a good summary.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
by that.
All the same, then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rollins, thank you for your presentation, and from the board of alders here, it's 30 of us. And we have approximately minus a minimum of 3,000 constituents overall. That's 90,000 people we can reach out to, and we do send a newsletter out. As my colleague said, if we can have a QR code or a few things, we can attach that to a newsletter, and that will go to 90,000 constituents, and we can bring some awareness to that. So that would be part of our contribution.
We have an excellent marketing person who is in Wall Street. She volunteers, and she does a lot of our work. So that's the QR code and all that packaging. You know, I'll bring it back to her. Keeping it simple.
The best way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
I apologize, I'm Gary, I just,
Thank you, men. We're going to look at how we can put a workshop together.
Right.
Whether it be on behalf of the Black Hispanic Caucus or open it up. We have committees that deal with those. We don't want to take their responsibility away, but we're certainly going to be a part of it.
appreciate it.
Okay.
This is a good start. We assume people know, you know, like you said, you got 90,000 constituents. And, you know, if we connect the dots and connect with each other, we can make a difference and save some souls.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm used to dealing with the CDBG, but Board of Alders is a different show. So this is great.
Yeah, they got a bigger checkbook.
Mr. Chair.
Health Department.
So, and one last comment before you leave. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for your passion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you came in here, you sat down and you said, let me start talking, and your passion is saving lives. And so we appreciate that, both of you. Thank you.
And I'm not the one that got him into it. He's the one that got him.
Well, thank goodness.
Oh, and you should know that we are bringing the sickle cell community young people down to NASA in October or November. Every year we go to Smithsonian with African American community, et cetera, et cetera. So we've made 2 or 3 trips down to Smithsonian. We are going to start to lean forward and show them their future. So in your last page there, you see the NASA thing, you know, and that's going to be very exciting. We'll talk to some of them, and this is STEM blown up. And there's lots of jobs and opportunities, but our children have to understand the future. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Comment about this.
No, so we now have the 2 things, so you all make sure you make the connection with the member of the Board of Education and one of his hats here, so you make that, we want to talk to you about health, other health related stuff as well.
Okay.
All right, come on.
You ready to go?
You're getting too comfortable here.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Second to that umbrella.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, man.
Hey, you want to, all right?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, because other be other business.
It's on the blood drive?
No, I don't know. It's on bio. Explain what you're.
Other new business, please give your name and where you're from.
Thank you. Orlando Yarber III, live in New Haven at 111 Roger White Drive.
And you want to speak to us about what, sir?
A paid job training program for New Haven residents in biotech, biopharmaceutical companies. I'm currently enrolling, and I would like to get more Black and brown residents enrolled in the program. That's the whole purpose and intent of it. Quickly, this program is designed by the New Haven biopharmaceutical biotech companies. And if I can just distribute this, look at some pictures. And they determine the training curriculum. They tell me up front how many internships they can provide that could potentially lead to full-time paying jobs. And I enroll those number of participants in a 6-month training program. Right now, we have, we are looking to target 18 to 26, 27-year-old New Haven residents. This program is specifically designed for those who are not college bound, college focused, do not have a college degree, and the companies are creating entry-level laboratory operation roles that do not require those skills or upfront expensive training. We do accept and welcome applicants who are beyond that demographic. We have $2.5 million from the state. It's a Career Connect grant, a 3-year grant. And the state requirements are that the participants must be Connecticut residents, legally able to work in the United States, and that might be it. Our requirements, they also must have a GED or high school equivalent degree. They need to have high school algebra and be able to have basic high school reading and writing. We are able to provide some support, but we do math every day, so that part is important. And we specifically want New Haven residents from neighborhoods of focus, Black and brown. Even though anyone can apply from Connecticut, and people do apply from Connecticut and from out of state, I want to enrich for New Haven residents. We enrolled our first cohort in May of this year. We enrolled, we brought 11 participants into something we call Academy, which is a 2-week onboarding experience. 10 of those moved forward, having completed Academy successfully, into laboratory operations training that led up to 4 months. We were at Yale West Campus and partnered with a biotech incubator there. And right now we are prepping our graduates for their 2-month internship. The whole experience is paid. Every 2 weeks we provide a stipend, and when they go to the biotechs, that'll be paid as well. Today we had our first interview. A biotech company interviewed 3 of our trainees, and we asked them to rank them and give us feedback on how they are. And so we had that today. We are currently enrolling the next cohort. I'm looking for 15 members. 3 of them will train in Yale and train in animal husbandry by the Yale Animal Resource Center, and that will lead to full-time employment with Yale University. What I need help with is getting the word out to our residents and inviting them to apply. What you have in front of you is my attempt to create vision for individuals who may not have seen inside of a biopharmaceutical company or know anything about what biotech may be. Right now, there's stock photography in there because the New Haven companies do not have a lot of Black and brown members or New Haven residents. It is their goal to change that through BioLaunch. The next iteration of this that will come out will have our graduates of the BioLaunch program because they're making it through and they're making a difference. The training is Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The stipend we provide is $750 every 2 weeks for 30 hours per week of training. We also have resources for supportive services that can help pay towards childcare, housing, transportation, food, clothing, technology. And currently we have this existing cohort, we've contributed in all those areas except for childcare. We haven't provided that directly in this initial cohort. I have the money. I don't want to give it back. I can't give it back. And I want to invest it in New Haven residents. People can come age range of the first cohort, 18, 19-year-old, 22, 23, 21-year-olds, 2 who are closer to the 30, 1 39, 1 40. 2 Caucasian males, 30-year-old, 18-year-old, 5 Black males, 19-year-old, 39-year-old, 22-year-old, 2 Latina cohort members, both 21-year-old, young man, young woman, and a Black woman who is in her 30s. We did have another Black young lady in her 20s who applied, and she came to Academy. But she came the first day, but didn't come back the other day. She didn't have childcare for her children, and we thought she had childcare before she started, and she thought she was going to rely on her family. She did get placement for childcare, but it was in June, and we started in May. And so she had interest in continuing. So I want to do better in prepping that on the front end, so people can attend and participate. But we had the funding. We just need to find the licensed provider who could do the service. Questions?
Where's the training held?
2 places. The 2-week of Academy is held at CONCAT, Connecticut Center for Arts and Technology in New Hallville at Science Park. The 4 months of training is in a laboratory space. So right now at Yale West campus in a molecular discovery chemistry lab. We're using space there. In 2024, it will be in 101 College and then in 100 College.
Alder Douglas.
This is the contact?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you. Thank you.
Alder Morrison.
Yes, do you have, I'm real big on snapshot, being able to see something. Do you have anything that says something like a capture and title, looking to hire, or you can make 50,000, I don't know, if in the sciences or in biotech, and then some bullets of requirements, right? And then the contact.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have like that one sheet, and like you can send that to Al, we can, like we told the last group, we can send that to our constituents, and you know, because this is a job. Yeah. You're coming to the table and talking about jobs, and so, and that's what we're one of our main things here on the Board of Alders is jobs. And so if you were able to send it, because like this is a lot, this is nice, but it's a lot.
Yes.
So if you had that one sheet, bullets with the contact, email and phone number that we can just send out, saying to people, anybody like on our Facebooks, anybody looking for a job, we can plug that picture in, and people can just take it, and that way the word gets around. And then just saying, you have to like math, because I know if I got that, I'd be like, this, you know, I like it, but I can't do math. I'm a social worker. Yeah. You know, so, but yeah, and so just because like you kind of specify, like you basically have to know how to do some math in order to do that. So if we got that sheet that says, if you have an interest in math or you're good in math, you might be interested in a job in bioscience. And we have a training program where you'll receive a subsidy, and these are the requirements. And then we send something out like that, then your phone will start ringing off the hook, because there's a lot of kids, a lot of people in general who like to do math and do all that. They just don't know where to go. And all you keep hearing in this town now is biotech, and everyone's like, well, what in the world is that? They keep saying there's millions of dollars of money in it, but how do you get into that? And what you have going on is a real concrete, easy way, residential, you know, from the average Joe can, as long as they can do some algebra, they can probably get a really good job. So
Thank you.
that's me. Because if I saw that, then I'm like, oh yeah, let me contact this person. Maybe I can get in the program.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Overseeing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Yarborough, thank you for coming and presenting to us tonight, and I really appreciate what you're doing for our community and for our youth. And I commend you on what you're doing, and I'm with my colleague, if we can have like a little flyer, and I would love to send that out for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question. Do you find that you get people that are kind of afraid of that term when you say biotech? They think of, you know, geeks in a room all locked up and something strange that so it scares them away from it.
Probably. I mean, the ones who come to us are more intrigued than turned away. But I can imagine that, well, the United States has a history of medical testing on Black people.
Okay.
And
Negative.
so I think that, yes, so I think that families may not be receptive to the idea of something related to biopharmaceutical or related to research or Yale University. So I welcome the opportunity to not challenge the narrative, but to create an option that kind of works against those things. So yes, I do think that some people don't particularly know what it is, what it's capable of, who are the people involved, what their motives are, and what are the really intractable, let's say, diseases that these companies are trying to do that academic companies cannot do.
I'm thinking of the marketing side of it to get these students. I mean, you have $2.5 million to play with over the next few years, and you're paying. It's a good market for those kids, just like you're saying, that aren't going to be going to college, and it gives them a good foot in the door. And now's the time, but the term is what may scare them away. That's what I'm concerned. So the marketing part of it is important.
Yes, and I welcome any suggestion in terms of terms. And I can also ask the current participants, like, what is clear to you? What attracted you? I will say some of them came out of their own initiative and interest. Probably a third of them were recommended. Maybe half were recommended by a family member. Aunt, parent brought them, friend. You know, I asked someone, do you have a name of a young person? They gave me a name. I called him. He checked it out and he called his friends. So there is something with language and being familiar either with the people recommending it to you or with what this could be.
I'm understanding it. But maybe school counselors might be a resource too.
Yes.
To direct them towards something.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, one thing I did do to ask you if this was helpful, for instance, Concat had an open house last week, and we tried to physically set up the room with different equipment and experiments so that people could come in and see what we do. And from that, we did get some applicants. So I would like to do more of that, actually bringing people into the spaces and to see and interact with those who are currently training to try to explain what it is.
Any other questions from meeting?
I just want to say, so it's not known yet, but I guess it's gonna be known here. We are doing the Q House. We have our youth council, and they're gonna put on their first college fair. And so I know that's college, but I think we expect to have about 600 kids come through this college fair on the 25th of October. And if you were to be able to be available and have your little bullet sheet, not this.
Yes.
Your little bullet sheet,
Mhm.
or even if you didn't have a bullet sheet, if you can, if you're not able to come, if you're able to create a bullet sheet, and we can make hundreds of copies. Each kid is getting a bag, so they can put all their information in, and we can also provide that. Because even though people come to the college fair, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to college.
Yes.
And so this would be another way of providing information to a big pool of kids that, is trying to figure it out.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a bullet sheet in the car and I left it. I said, don't bring that today. Bring
Of
the
course you
photos,
did.
but thank you.
So, yeah,
I'll
so
do that.
Al knows everything and everybody. So Al will make sure that you have the information. You can always talk to me because I work with the people at the QRs.
Thank you.
Yep. That's what
Thank you. Alder Rodriguez.
Again, to piggyback on the more, so if you have another open house, if you can send us that flyer as well at Contact,
Yes.
so then that could be driven out to the community to see if we can get folks to go, because I'd be interested in coming and just see it, and getting, try to get more folks from New Haven through those doors to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Yarborough, first of all, congratulations for securing this grant. This is a major achievement. I want to ask kind of maybe a question that you might not be comfortable in asking, in responding to. As we know, you sit on the Board of Education.
Yes.
If I'm in the school system, I'm saying, why is this not happening in the 12th grade level or the 11th grade level? Or why is it not being integrated into the school system curriculum? I mean, this is groundbreaking. So I know you're not wearing your Board of Education hat, but I do have to put that question into the public domain. When I first heard about the bylaw, that was the first question that came to me. This is tremendous as an innovative experiment, if you will. But this has so many ramifications in terms of scaling up, given the problems in the school system at the moment. So that's the question. If you don't want to answer, I understand. But if you, and then the second question is, I'll give you a softball one to get kind of thing. It might be helpful to know about your enrollment schedule for the next 12 months.
Yes.
And in terms of our chair's question, in terms of the school system and the high school counselors, absolutely, there has to be a ton of 12 seniors right now that might be interested in knowing about this if there's an enrollment in July or after graduation, or even a special class for graduates.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of is an indirect way of coming back to my integrating into the school system question.
I do have thoughts.
Okay,
So thank you for the questions, and thank you for the insight. Three thoughts come to mind. One is, at the most recent Board of Ed meeting, career pathways was a presentation that was made, and they have bioscience as one of the topics for future work for New Haven school graduates. Mm-hmm. Well, not even New Haven school graduates, New Haven school students, while they're still students. So it is on the horizon from the perspective of the New Haven public schools. I don't know what the end goal is, or what the method or the methodology will be to try to bring in these topics in this training. But someone is looking at it from that presentation. Two other important things, just having done one cohort, so we don't have a lot of cohorts, but just having done one cohort, what we tell people in terms of the bullet points is they don't need to know science. We'll teach them the biology and the rest of the science in order to do the training. We just need them to be able to read and understand and write in English and high school algebra. I wouldn't want I would prefer, as someone doing job training, I would prefer for the students coming out of our schools to just have the solid math and reading skills. I don't need them to know what I'm going to teach them and to be ahead. I would really just want them to have those solid math and reading skills, because their enjoyment of the work shifts when they don't have to wrestle with the math or the reading. Now, I think one of the interests in having biotech programs within schools is just to keep the students' interest. It's to prepare for the workforce, but it's to keep them coming back every day to be interested. And I do think that's valid, to keep giving students a taste of what they could do long term. So I think that is valid. And the third thought is why this program is successful and will be successful is because we respond to industry demand, needs, and market. I will not train more people than I can employ through my partnerships with the industry. We are certifying them after the end of their 2 months of internship with their industry partner. Right now, for the next cohort, I'm asking the industry partners, okay, May 2024, cohort 2 will be available for paid internships. How many roles do you have, and what are the skill sets you need for those roles? Because I want to only enroll that number of students, and I want to train them specifically to be ready for what you're going to do. If I train more, if I tell somebody that I'm going to give them an opportunity to get a full-time job, because most are unemployed, underemployed, or maybe a little bit of employment and trying to do a career shift from a job to a career. But if I tell them you're going to do all this training, and I know that I have more students than slots are available in New Haven, I think I've done them a disservice, and then I don't know who's going to come after them. So my concern, not my concern, but we just can't set up more people than what the market has capacity for. I think right now, this is, so we just have to be responsive to what's happening. Now, and I am doing this, but we can go outside of New Haven. I have employers who are outside of New Haven who are asking about, can we hire some of your trainees? And I'm just looking at other avenues and other employment levels to expand the market of who can be industry partners. I think that can be a solution. And then I just have to tailor my training to the specific role. So I'm trying to work to expand, and I'm happy to, partner with our district to serve in whatever capacity would be meaningful and would allow me to really do well here. Thank you.
No, thank you for your response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Chair, I heard that. Any other questions from the committee?
Do you have a card?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I had a question. Do you in that course teach, because you're dealing with 18 to 27-year-olds, basically. Do you teach them anything about the importance of making sure they're at work every day, filling out applications, job advancement, looking for advancement, those type of skills as well?
Yes. In addition to the technical skills, we teach them soft skills and professional development. I have a staff person, career pathways manager. Her name is Carrie Greatheart. She did HR for Sikorsky. She's done this role for Concat for their phlebotomy, medical ability coding, and culinary arts program, helping with job placement and development. And she's now doing it specifically for BioLaunch. That is a huge component of what we do, and we do it all along the way in terms of their training, because we want them to be mature, be ready, be skilled,
and keep the job.
And keep the job.
Yeah.
And keep the job. And sometimes companies don't train this, but they need it and expect it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Don't forget that card.
Yes.
And that bullet sheet.
Yes. That bullet sheet.
Okay, we're moving on our agenda, and no report from the bylaws committee. So that's the reason here. There was other new business. Any other new business that anyone has? Want to bring up? No? We'll move to
Thank you.
old business. Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have, I don't know if this would be new business, and it's about money. So I was thinking about the sickle cell, disease whole with Dr. Rollins coming to the table, and the fact that they need finances and they have this event going on. One of the things as a board, we still have one donation left, $1,000 donation that we have not identified to pay it out. You know, we have the 3 youth, the 3 senior, like that. We didn't do anything this last year with that one. And because sickle cell is every children, adults, all of that, especially children, because it starts, from birth. I don't know where this fits in. That's why I'm bringing it now. Can we look at Michelle's house and their fundraising activity as that one, because that's $4,000 versus the general $300 donations that we give when people come to the table. They didn't come to the table tonight to ask specifically, we need a donation for our thing, but for the overall umbrella of what they're doing, I think this is a good place to put our monies to show supports, not only through, a workshop that we want to do, but again, through our financial support. So I'm saying that, and if that's okay, I wanted to be able to make a motion, but I don't know where all that falls in the agenda.
Yeah, I think it falls under new business. It was a new item that was on the table that you presented to us. So, yes.
Okay.
I would second.
Okay.
You want to
So,
make your motion?
okay, so I would, what's the name of Michelle? So can I say Michelle's house?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that the Black and Hispanic Caucus donate $1,000 to the Michelle House for sickle cell disease. That's it. That's
Second.
That's my.
Second.
I second that.
Okay. Motion is on the table and seconded. Any discussion? All the same.
From what we hear from Dr. Rollins, I think it's appropriate to make this funding toward that association.
Alderman Douglas?
I know I seconded it, but is that going to conflict with the rule of donations, the maximum donation of $300 to an organization, or will that conflict?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
No, that doesn't conflict because we as an organization, as a caucus, have identified 3 youth organizations that we give money to and 3 senior. We only did 2.
Okay.
And so we still have 3. When I say 3 youth, 3 senior, those are for the $1,000 donations.
So
We only did 2. We have 1 open. So since, and even during COVID, we didn't do it. So we have the money, and I think this is really a good, program or service to provide this to, because research, they need research, they need money, they need funding. So
I'll stand on my second. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the vote is all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It carries $1,000 to Michelle's house. Good.
that was coming.
Right, then we'll go on to old business, the gala first, which I guess kind of works along with our fundraising committee.
So as far as the gala, the gala's Kim, right? The only information I have is what she emailed out, which I guess the gala is on the 26th, of October. And she, we all know the different people that were that we're honoring on this year. And so it looks like the ask, when she sent us an email earlier today, is just to encourage people to buy the tickets, which are $100, and to buy ads. The question I had, Al, where do we have hard copy tickets, or do everyone buy their tickets through E-Rite or something?
Yeah, right now, you use the QR code that's there to buy the tickets.
Okay.
If people need hard copy tickets, let us know.
Yeah, yeah.
We can print them.
So is this, using this QR code, is this, do you have to pay a fee? Is this Eventbrite where I buy it?
There's a transaction fee, yes.
So,
There's a transaction.
if there's a transaction fee, we have to be in a position to take people straight up $100. Some people don't want to pay the extra $5.
Like I said, people want to buy an individual ticket, let us know that.
Okay.
They can always come to the office.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. So-
we can always work that out if that's the case.
Okay.
Someone gives us $100, then we'll take the $100. Yeah, we'll take it, yeah.
And are we even having physical tickets?
If we need physical tickets, like I said, let us know.
Right.
We'll print them out.
Okay, all right, so I think that's real important, to know, that's really all I have, because I don't do gala no more.
How are we doing the tickets? We're not gonna have actual tickets this year?
Anybody that wants actual tickets, we can print tickets for them, but just like we did last year,
Yeah.
both of our tickets are done through Eventbrite. So people just go on, pay it, and then they get a code that we scan at the door.
So we're gonna have two options, which is great. Those who wanna save that $5,
Right, and
then,
those that wanna come
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people that's still old school, they wanna fill their ticket.
yes.
But then again, as far as money is concerned, sometimes, like an organization like this, right? You could pay your money and just get on the list. You get on the list, we give you a receipt that you paid, but you don't have to have an actual ticket, because I think sometimes that the ticket thing gets a little crazy. That's something that.
Right,
that
for
all this
example, what
for-
she's talking about, we talked about sponsorships earlier. So the sponsors are gonna give us a list of names, those people are not necessarily gonna have physical ticket, they're gonna be on our master list and be seated, because we have the names of all those people, they're not gonna come in and hand us a ticket.
So I think we shouldn't have actual tickets personally, because it gets too crazy. I think it gets crazy if the office is able to maintain the list. But I guess the other question becomes, if I had 10 people or 20 people that I want to sell tickets to, they're not coming downtown. And they don't want the extra $5. Oh, they can just give it to me. Okay. All right, so as alders, people can give us their money, because if you're talking to them, you must know them. And you can write your own receipt of that you took money from them to make sure that their name is on the list.
So there won't be any tickets at the door
No, we're not selling anything, we good last year.
Because it's always sold out by the time we get to the actual gala, which is a great problem to have. But
somebody mentioned to me that there are, last year, well, there are a lot of people who just decide they want to go that day and they show up.
well, then they don't get in, because
That's what I said too.
That's unfortunate.
I got
But-
break foot for it.
Yeah, they just show up. They just stand in the hallway and look to see. We might bring them a pasta out or something. But yeah, so it just sounds like, the easiest way is to, sell the tickets. You got the information. Tell people it's $100. Either they could come down here, go on Eventbrite, or give it to an order.
Or write us a check.
Right.
Write us a check.
And with the
All right, wait a minute,
names.
all the Douglas has.
So, no physical tickets.
No, because
So then person's gotta pay an extra $8.39.
if they go on Eventbrite, but if they don't want to pay the extra $8, they could come downtown, give the money to Al, or they can give it to you and you can bring it to Al.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderman Walker Murray Johnson?
No, forget it. Because I was just gonna say the basic thing. It's the same thing we've been actually doing, right? Because orders that sell a ticket, they always bring one check or the money down to the office. I've never gotten any ticket, ever. I
Yeah,
just
you-
get a name. No. I just get a name. And when I get there, I tell the person to say my name or their name at there, and they mark them off. Because I always do a table of 10 and I collect the money and I write one check from me to the Black and Spanish Caucus. I've never got a physical ticket. So that's gonna remain the same. Some people do be doing a Eventbrite thing if they choose,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like the same way. Your name gonna go on the list, they're gonna get in, they're gonna know that they did. They're gonna know that they bought a ticket. People won't be able to say, I bought one if they really didn't.
Right.
It saves us money.
Saves a headache, that's the big deal.
The other thing about the gala that Kim had mentioned is that if you can, because they do the raffle,
Yeah.
if you can get people to give you donations, I know last year, I know that's your work, but I tend to go there a lot. Brazzi's, last year when I went to Brazzi's,
Yeah.
Val was like, oh, I can't go this year, but here's a gift card, and we raffled it off. So
We got those
anywhere
forms, right?
anywhere that people have supports, please get those so we can run, because that's just more money to add to the caucus.
Well, Rodriguez, any more on the events?
Yeah, we've been picking back up, and absolutely, and we were pushing on a lot of the businesses that are in New Haven that we solicit when we get food and things, you know, for events. So definitely reaching out to those businesses and trying to get them. I know I did speak to Albert DeCola, and he was gonna follow up with Avello for the 2 tickets. Okay.
Nika's said that Nika's definitely need to give up
That's
something
all.
on the food we eat from them.
Yes. What about you?
He's got a connection. Don't let him get away from that.
And then, what's the deadline? That's the last thing we want to say.
Friday night.
The first Friday in October for ads. So first Friday in October for ads, and we're selling tickets up to sold out. And what is sold out?
500.
500.
500?
500 sells out.
It's 5, yeah,
We usually sell out every year.
every year.
Let this year be the same.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set on gala and fundraiser.
Mhm.
Move on to just a reminder on the dues, those who don't have the dues up to date, bring the dues up to date.
People, as far as dues, it's, you know, people should have at least $90 in the kitty as of today.
The treasurer's report's handed out, everybody's got that, and we just skipped over that point earlier so we can get to our speakers. So if you have any questions on that, the treasurer is here, can ask her, but it seemed pretty clear and to the point, as far as I was concerned. Any other old business? Well, the floor is open for the next motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Al, did you write down that
Yeah,
outside
yeah,
of the-
yep.